Welcome back! If you're new around here, my name is Ellie and welcome to Small and Strong. Today's video is going to be all about how Ehlers Danlos Syndrome affects me personally. It affects every single person slightly differently, and some people have more symptoms than others. It is also an invisible disability, so many people who look from the outside won't be able to see what is actually happening on the inside. And I think that's why this video is important, because there are so many invisible disabilities out there that people struggle with every single day, and many people out there in the world don't realise the struggles these people face. So I feel like it's important to highlight just how much these conditions affect someone's every single day life, but they learn to mask it so that other people don't necessarily realise. If you are someone out there who is currently seeking an Ehlers Danlos Syndrome diagnosis or thinks you may have it, I have a video all about my diagnosis which I will have linked above, so you can go and watch that after this video. But for those of you who don't know, Ehlers Danlos Syndrome is a connective tissue disorder, so it affects every single bit of connective tissue in your body, whether that is your joints or your organs. It is pretty much everywhere, and people with Ehlers Danlos Syndrome have faulty connective tissue, so as you can imagine it does affect quite a lot of things. For me in particular, it is my joints. I struggle a lot with dislocating joints and subluxing joints. A subluxation is like a little dislocation. It doesn't come out all the way, it just comes out a little bit of the way, but it can still be quite painful. I would say that on average I dislocate my shoulders pretty much every day, sometimes more than once a day. My elbows specifically sublux every time I'm drying my hands with a towel, and every morning I wake up and have to put some sort of joint back in place. Now obviously you don't just have joints in your upper limbs, it affects your lower limbs as well. So for me, the reason I use a wheelchair is because when I dislocate my hip, it tends to affect the nerves around my hip and just renders my leg pretty much useless for a while until they recover. So when I dislocate my hip, I do have to use a wheelchair. But that's not the only reason I use my wheelchair. It's because whenever I'm out and about walking, my legs are in some sort of discomfort. My knees are constantly dislocating. I would say with almost every step I take, my kneecap moves, or I have to step with the bottom of my leg going around so that my leg can sort of stay in place. And that is painful, which is why so many people with EDS choose to use mobility aids like crutches or a wheelchair. As you can imagine, having joints constantly dislocate also means you're in a lot of pain most of the time. Not only when a joint dislocates, but maybe your joint is recovering from dislocating, or your joints are just inflamed because they're not quite doing what they're supposed to do in the right way. For me personally, I have a lot of back and neck pain, as well as my shoulders and my hips, which hurt because they dislocate. Many people with EDS have prescription painkillers from the GP. I am one of them. I have different levels of painkillers that I will take. If I dislocate a joint, I have a painkiller to take for that, but I also have painkillers that I take every single day pretty regularly to make sure that I'm only in an amount of pain that I can continue to live my life with. One of the other main symptoms that I think a lot of people with EDS have is fatigue. It is a huge one, especially for me. I struggle so much with fatigue. I am always tired and I'm always in need of a nap. No matter what time I wake up, no matter what time I go to bed at night, I will be tired during the day. In the beginning of having my EDS diagnosis, I didn't quite understand why this was, but I've learned over the years that it's because your body's just working so hard. All your muscles are constantly working to try and do what your connective tissue isn't, which naturally means your body is doing so much more than everybody else is just to function the same. There is something else called brain fog, which a lot of people with EDS have, and that is where some days your brain just doesn't initiate. Some days you really just cannot function. You can't remember things, you walk into a room, not remember why you're there, or you may be so exhausted that you just can't even put a sentence together. This is one of the hardest things for me to contend with because my memory is bad anyway. So on days where I'm having a particular rough day with brain fog, I just really cannot get anything done, and I do just sort of have to spend the day chilling out and allowing myself to do what I can and not pushing myself to do too much. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, Ehlers Danlos Syndrome affects all your connective tissue, so this includes organs like your heart and your stomach. I feel like these are the main ones that I hear about the most being affected, and they're the ones that are affected for me. I have a secondary condition which comes along with Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, which is to do with my heart, and it means that I have been known to faint quite a bit. The main way the hospital treats it is to tell you to eat more salt and drink more water. So I spend a lot of my day trying to stay hydrated and trying to eat enough salt so that I don't feel lightheaded and that I don't pass out. So you'll very often find me with a packet of salted pretzels. They're currently my favourite go-to choice, just so that I can get that little bit of salt in. Other foods like bacon, I've been told, are really good, and just any salty snack really helps. It also means that when I'm exercising, if I do cardio and my heart goes too fast, then sometimes it just can't keep up and I will faint. So I need to take so much extra caution when exercising to make sure that that doesn't happen. I do also have a whole video about exercising with EDS, which I'll also have linked above and in the description down below. With stomach issues, I've been very fortunate so far in that I haven't had to have any medical intervention. I know loads of people who have to have feeding tubes and other things to help them eat food and get the nutrients they need. But for me, I am not able to eat a whole meal. I'm not able to eat big amounts, and having 3 meals a day is really difficult for me. I have to have loads of little snacks throughout my day because I just can't eat that much in one sitting without it causing me pain and without it just being really uncomfortable. I've pretty much always been like this, but it's only since getting diagnosed with the EDS that we've realised actually that's why. This was something that was difficult when I was dancing because I had to make sure that I had enough nutrients in me to dance without causing myself the stomach issues and being in pain. So as I've said in so many of my videos, I always make sure that I've got snacks and that I eat little and often rather than a big meal 3 times a day. The final thing that I would just want everyone to know is that it is such an up and down condition to have. No 2 days are ever going to be the same, and things can just crop up out of absolutely nowhere, and then you find out they're EDS related later on. For me, that was my heart. When things started going wrong in that department, we spent ages trying to figure out what it was, and then we realised it was down to the EDS. And I know that so many different people have trouble with different joints, and they suddenly find they're in pain with one area of their body, and then it gets chalked down to EDS. It's one of those things where your life is constantly changing and you're constantly having to adapt to this disability and figure out how to live your life around it. That is all the information I've got for you for today's video. If you have any other symptoms or any other struggles that I haven't mentioned and you think are worth a mention, please comment them down below or head over to my Instagram, which is @small_and_strong, and let me know them over there. I will have a post that comes along with this recent video where you can tell me all about it. I hope today's video has helped somebody in some way and maybe educated a few people who didn't know much about this condition before. As I've said, that is all from me for today's video, and I will see you in the next one.